It's great to have your company on another episode of SPL Express with myself, Abhishek, Ravikrishnan, and resident pundit Rhysh, Roshan as we discuss the major talking points of yet another fascinating weekend in the Singapore Premier League. But before we look ahead to the weekend, let's quickly run through how match week 19 panned out. What a game we had last Friday as Albirex Niigata stole a point at the Hougang Stadium, courtesy of a sublime free kick from Idetsu as it finished 3 apiece. Lion City Sailors meanwhile returned to winning ways with a comfortable 4-0 win over Balestier Khalsa, while the Young Lions picked up just their second win of the season, stunning 10-men Tanjong Pagar. But they were no match for Albirex last night, losing 7-1 as the White Swans continued to put pressure on league leaders LCS. So Kazuaki Yoshinaga's men now just 1 point off the pace after 19 matches as the title race looks set to go down the wire. And that race for the potential AFC Cup spots is really heating up. Tanjong Pagar, Tampines Rovers, Hougang United and Geylang International all in contention with just 6 points separating the 4 teams. Here's what's coming up this weekend. Balestier Khalsa host Hougang on Friday. Young Lions have a tall order in the form of the Sailors on Saturday, while Tanjong Pagar and Tampines Rovers lock horns in a crucial game. Sunday, Geylang International make the trip across the country to Jurong East to face Albirex Niigata. So let's start off with that Albirex versus Geylang game, Roshan. Albirex coming into this one of a massive victory against the Young Lions, but the big takeaway from that game at Jurong East was the fact that Kodai Tanaka had to be subbed off with injury.
Yeah, that's a concern. I'm waiting to see what the situation is around that injury. But if he is going to be missing, I don't know if he'll be fit enough to play in this game. Didn't look like it was very good when he had to come off, because I think immediately he knew that something was wrong and he had to be stretchered off. And he will be a big miss for this Albirex Niigata side. But we have seen Yoshinaga tweak tactics a couple of times this season already. He's had to deal with a few injury concerns, and he's been able to still manage to find a formula. But it's not ideal at all, is it? You know, Kodai Tanaka is in a fantastic run of form with his 22 goals for the campaign so far. So they just have to sort of try and tweak things a little bit. I'm thinking maybe if he's not fit, Sugita might come back out onto the left-hand side, and then they'll have to try and address an issue down the right in terms of what they do with the balance on that side of the pitch.
Okay, well, good news for Yoshinaga is the fact that Ilhan is back after illness. He played in that game against Young Lions, expected to start against Geylang as well. What does he bring to this side? Because you mentioned tactically, he offers Yoshinaga a lot more options with the players surrounding him.
Yeah, I think, since Ilhan has come in, he certainly has helped Albirex Niigata with their game play overall. I think he brings good balance to the side in terms of how he brings others into play. And his partnership with Tanaka has actually been really good. You know, he's not just a player in there who's been himself on a good run of goal-scoring form, but how he brings others into play, for example. And Tanaka, with his ability to get all those goals, he's been playing more in sort of that left half space. I touched on this previously, where he's given that freedom to either pull out wide, to hug the touchline, receive, and then run into defence, while Ilhan is that player who pins the opposition central defenders down. So he sort of is that central presence, that focal point. His touches, his layoff play is all very good. He brings other players into the game as well. So it's a big boost that Ilhan has come back into the side, and hopefully he'll be fit enough to continue for the rest of the season.
Now, technically, Albirex could have been top going into this weekend, if they had won the game against Hougang. How big a blow was that result, especially in this crucial part of the season for them?
I think it was a bit of a setback, not too much, because now they're just a point behind again, and they can still apply the pressure, and they've still got lots of games to go in the rest of the season. So again, I said there'll be twists and turns. I don't think it's as straightforward as you're going to win all your matches now and end up as the champions. And the most important thing for Albirex, I think, in that game was to show that there was some kind of recovery and there was an ability to fight back. And it wasn't the best of outings for them in terms of their overall performance, but that they were able to at least get a point out of it, I think was important for them. And the fact that, again, they went out against the Young Lions and just blew them away, I think they'll carry that with them into the next game. And it's going to be a tricky game, against, I would say, opposition who are in a pretty good run of form at the moment.
Well, let's shift our attention to the title contenders, Lion City Sailors. They're up against Young Lions on Saturday. Sailors will be without head coach Kim Do-hoon, who we can confirm will serve a three-match touchline ban. How much of a miss will this be for the Sailors?
Sometimes it can actually have the opposite effect, where players maybe feel a little bit of freedom that the head coach is not on the touchline, and they play with a little bit more confidence, a bit more relaxed perhaps. But in terms of the bigger picture, I mean, he's still able to work with the team on the training ground, and he will have assistants that he trusts His message would have come across in the team in terms of the training sessions, what they want out of the game, in the analysis, in the build-up to it. So, I think he can fully trust his side with all these experienced players to take all those instructions and all those tactics on board going into this one. And I mean, look, I don't think from what I read with the press release, I don't think he's actually banned from the stadium, from the match venue. I think he's just not allowed to be on the touchline in the dressing room. So, he'll still probably have some kind of influence, watching from the stands.
You spoke about the players perhaps maybe more relaxed and be more confident without the coach on the sideline. What I want to ask you about is the fact that the Sailors, with the quality they have, they should be strutting their stuff right now. Even the win against Balestier, they had individual quality, of course, but they were not as dominant as you would expect them to be. So what is the key issue right now?
Well, this is something that I feel like we keep talking about week after week with the Lion City Sailors. And again, that consistency and a system of play, that identity I still feel is lacking a little bit. I'm not quite sure what we'll get from Lion City Sailors. Okay, they have wing play. They like to get it out to Lestien, who's a big outlet for them at times. And at times, again, they press up against opposition. Sometimes they sit back a little bit. I'm not quite sure what it is that really signifies the Lion City Sailors or what it is about them that we can say. With Albirex, we know what it is in terms of the aspects of the game. With Tanjung Pagar, even, we know what they are. We know what they bring. So with the Sailors, I'm still sort of trying to figure out what exactly the style of play is for the Sailors. And again, that consistency is lacking in terms of the performances. Yes, they're still good enough because they have excellent quality. It's still good enough on an individual level to obviously take care of teams like Balestier and to take care of most of the teams in the league. But even Kim Do-hoon has talked about this in the past, where he said, it's not enough to just go on and win games. They need to be improving week in, week out. And I think it's still, in progress in that sense. And Kim Do-hoon, I mean, at the end of the day, he's the one that the responsibility is going to fall on to get the best out of these players. So ultimately, it's his job to make sure he gets consistency in terms of the performance and the result.
Well, they have an interesting run of fixtures coming up. They play the likes of Tanjong Pagar, Tampines Rovers, Geylang International, and Hougang United, who are all contesting for the AFC Cup. So it's a pretty interesting run of fixtures for them.
It is going to be a tricky run of fixtures for the Lion City Sailors. I mean, they've taken care of Tanjung Pagar United quite comfortably already this season, twice now. Geylang in there could be tricky because Geylang seem to know how to play against the Lion City Sailors. Then you mentioned Hougang as well, and Hougang seem to be coming into a good run of form themselves, and they will want to try and fight for that potential AFC Cup spot. So yeah, it's getting into that crunch time in the season now, where teams are fighting for their positions in the table, players are fighting for contracts for next year as well, and the Sailors are going for the title. Could be a very fascinating next few weeks in the Singapore Premier League for the Lion City Sailors and the title race.
Well, you mentioned Hougang. Hougang, they found some form.
They have,
the game against Albirex, they probably deserve to win. They're up against Balestier this week. What have you made of how they've improved?
I think, the last two performances have been very good. Against Tampines Rovers, prior to that Albirex game, and then against Albirex, where I would agree with you. I think they deserve to win. They were very good in that game. And the only issue for them has been that defensive lapses this season that has again come back to haunt them. I mean, 5 goals conceded in the last 2 matches. Yes, they picked up the 3 points. Yes, they look like a side at the moment that's saying to the opposition, you go and score 1, we'll score 2, you score 2, we'll score 3. It's fun for us, the neutrals, to watch. It's very entertaining. But I don't think if you're a purist or if you're a coach, you want that from your team. You want them to show control in matches. And that's still lacking from this Hougang side. But where I feel that they've sort of turned the corner is in the fact that they are now looking fitter. They are now looking sharper in their play. They're looking a lot more aggressive with their pressing. They're playing with more intensity and playing at a higher tempo. And again, the importance of it is that the players like Krajcek are coming into form. Bortoluzo scoring goals, coming into a good run of form now. Sahil's been playing some decent football. And then, of course, you've got Shawal Anwar, who's just incredible with his movement across the forward line. Such an intelligent runner off the ball. Good technique as well, good pace. And the fact that he scored 5 goals and picked up 3 assists in his last 7 matches, I think says a lot about the kind of confidence that's flowing through this Hougang United side at the moment.
Quick word about Shawal, because as you mentioned, he's hit a pretty decent run of form.
Yeah.
What's his best position? you reckon?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, normally he starts out on the right-hand side, or you can even play as an inverted winger, but most of the time we've seen him, playing out and out on the right. When they pushed him up front, I know Clement spoke about changing of tactics, making it a 4-4-2 in the second half against Albirex and pushing him further up front. It was more so to try and get more of a body forward into those attacking areas, to try and take a few more risks. He looked good in that position. He didn't have much defending to do because, he wasn't playing on the wing anymore, didn't have to track his runner. And it seemed to free up space for him to go and use his pace and his timing of his movement to attack the spaces in behind the opposition defense. It's an option. It certainly is. They could go back to 4-4-2, Hougang. We've seen that from them. Last season, I thought we saw that from them at times, playing more on the counter-attack, playing with the quick transitions. They look like they're going back to that. They look like they're going back into that intensity, that high press, and playing quickly on the counter-attack. So that is certainly an option for them. But also, I think even from out on the right-hand side, it depends on the opposition that they're up against. Even from the right-hand side, because he's so intelligent with his movement, Shawal, he's such a threat because he can make those darting runs, diagonal runs. He can hug the touchline and make those runs in. Or if the fullback is tucked in and he's out on the touchline, he can receive in space, and then there's that space for him to actually run at the defender. So he gives them lots of options and a lot of flexibility tactically.
Well, let's shift our attention to the game, which is going to be crucial in the race for the AFC Cup spots. Tanjong Pagar up against Tampines Rovers. Tanjong Pagar have lost their last 2 games. Is it time for panic stations right now?
They might be panicking a little bit. I still think they've had such a really good campaign, Tanjong Pagar. The last game that they suffered a defeat to the Young Lions, I was quite surprised by that. And then I realized that they had a player sent off, so that was a bit of a struggle for them. But look, I think this is going to be a fascinating game of football, and it's important for Tanjong Pagar because they put in such a great effort in the season so far, that now they're coming into that sort of final leg, I would say, that sense of fatigue can start to come into it a little bit. And it really is important that the coaching staff there really try and somehow get those motivation levels up and get them firing again, because it's 2 defeats on the bounce, as you said, and it's a real risk here that they could end up losing their place in the table. So they do have to wake up. They do have to start getting switched on. But it's going to be fascinating, this game against Tampines Rovers.
The thing is that, as you mentioned off camera, it's 2 contrasting styles of play, Tanjong Pagar and Tampines. What can we expect from this game?
Yeah, I think you're quite right to say that. Again, from Tanjong Pagar United, we kind of know what to expect from them. They try and play on the counter-attack. They try and put bodies behind the ball and sit back and then hit it long into the likes of Nishiguchi and even Nishikawa, for example, the pace to burn in behind opposition defences. We're probably going to see that again from Tanjong Pagar United. No real surprises. From Tampines Rovers, again, we know they're a team that likes to play it out from the back. They've got good rotations in the positions, excellent ball-playing midfielders with the likes of Nakamura and Memedovic, who really keep the game going for this Tampines Rovers side, and Kapitovic, who I'm pretty sure will won that golden boot, and he's again full of confidence in a good run of form. So it's very different styles, and I expect in this game Tampines Rovers to have a bit more of the ball, but they are a side at times that I feel can be a little bit bullied physically. They're not the tallest of teams. I don't think they're the most physical, Tampines Rovers. So Tanjong Pagar could use that physicality. They're known for their physicality as well in this league, and they could use that to just try and overpower Tampines Rovers in this match.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating affair, and that is our match of the week for this weekend. Coverage begins at 5 o'clock. Join Shazad Haq with Shashi Kumar for all the build-up to kick off. So that's all the time we have for this week's edition of SPL Express. Catch us next week as we recap match week 20. Until then, do enjoy all the coverage of the games live on our YouTube channel.